Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today is the reverse dieting episode. We have had a lot of requests for this episode specifically. And I'm excited for us to film it because I think it's long overdue and will help answer a lot of, I think, myths and questions that you guys have. So I say we just go in and dive into it unless you want to have a
Yeah.
little intro in, Alex.
So I think one thing, you know what, we're already getting into point one, but
Yeah.
let me just give a little background of like what I thought reverse dieting was. I
Yeah.
thought years and years ago, I thought reverse dieting was just like this because it's almost touted that is this like magical way that people will increase their metabolism.
Yeah.
And this was back before I understood what metabolism was. And so maybe we touch on that at some point, but like I really thought like, oh, if you reverse diet, you'll be able to lose weight at a higher calorie target. I mean,
Yes.
that's the most rampant misinformation around reverse dieting, in my opinion, right now is
Yeah.
like
I
you'll be
agree.
able to lose weight at a higher calorie target, which, like,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
No. Or that it's just like, it's this magic thing where if you do it properly, you'll be able to reverse yourself to 3,000 calories so that you can maintain on 3,000. And then next time you go into a cut, you're cutting at 2,500. And
Yeah,
so
right.
we didn't put that as a point, but that's definitely something we need to talk about is like the metabolism and how flexible that is and where all of those truths and myths lie in that.
Yep, agreed.
So,
All right,
um,
so let's just get into it. What is a reverse diet? Let's start there. That's
yeah.
probably the easiest part to start at.
Yeah, so I think the simplest way of explaining this is a reverse diet is just simply a method that you're using to go from deficit calories to maintenance calories. Whatever when we'll talk about the different ways that you can do that, but whatever way you're doing it that is what the reverse diet is. It's just you going from deficit to maintenance. And I mean, I want to keep expanding on that, but that's really all
That's
it
it.
is.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's that simple of explaining.
Yeah, I, I
Did you
I
have
don't think no, I don't think that really needs any more explanation. That this is so Bri and I kind of review we view reverse dieting a little bit differently, and she kind of brought me over to her way of thinking literally yesterday, just literally the day before recording this podcast. So the way I have always seen it is that it is the incremental approach of increasing your calories back to maintenance, whereas Bri kind of saw it as it's just going from your deficit calories to your maintenance calories, whether you do that incrementally or you do that in a big jump,
right.
whichever way it is, that's what reverse means to her. So if you're kind of stuck in the middle and you're not sure which definition to go with, it doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
really doesn't matter because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's all we're doing is we're just going back to maintenance from our cut calories. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think it's just maybe like an example that it would kind of, I don't know why I feel like there needs to be an analogy, but it's like traveling. You can do that by car, you can do that by plane, but at the end of the day, you're traveling. You are taking a journey. And it's like, that's what reverse diet is. It's just a method of getting from point A to point B. And so if you want to do that by plane, by car, by sea, by boat, by walking, by biking, whatever that is, again, I don't think there's not that many ways to really reverse diet, but you could say like there's a bunch of in-betweens of how people do it, but that's just it. It's just going from point A to point B. And the point A and point B are deficit to maintenance.
yep, agreed.
So, and we kind of touched on it of what it's not right at the beginning. What it's not is it's not this magic way to increase your maintenance calories. It's not this magic way to not gain body fat. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of all the different things online that I see. It's not this magical thing that just,
You're gonna hack your
fixes your
metabolism.
hormones. Yeah,
Hmm.
biohacking your metabolism.
Biohacking. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's a
Yeah.
red flag of
Whole
a
nother
word,
thing.
whole other thing, but it's just not this magical thing that I think, and maybe for some people it is magical, right? Maybe for some people they've tried a deficit for so long and actually going to maintenance is a magical experience for you,
Sure.
actually eating more calories, but it's just not this revolutionary thing that we just recently discovered that is going to change physiologically how our bodies operate
Yeah,
at the
and I
end of the
think a
day.
lot of people will, once they get into any kind of structured maintenance, where it's like I think a lot of people do this like calorie cycling, but they do it subconsciously to a degree. Like they will
Yeah.
eat like birds, maybe 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 calories during the week. And then they'll be like, oh, but Alex, no, but I'm gaining weight. So how could that be? Well, it's because your weekends are
Yeah.
insane. You're eating like a lunatic on the weekends. Like you're
Right.
smashing like what, 1,000 calories plus worth of alcohol. You're
Yeah.
getting pizza. And like there's nothing wrong with
enjoying your
With
weekends.
pizza. Yeah, sure. I was gonna say with like with
You're about to say
pizza. I was
alcohol.
gonna say, but there is some alcohol's poison. But anyways,
Yeah.
just wanted to plug that in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's nothing wrong with like eating those foods that you enjoy, or they're more calorie dense foods. But like, guys, if you were able to spread out and actually keep your eating habits a little bit more consistent, your energy levels, you'll feel like a brand new person. If you're
Yeah.
tired of like feeling
Totally.
tired, feeling sluggish, like I
Right.
would really look at your calorie balance. Are you eating close to your maintenance, and are you doing that consistently, or are you just like way under eating and then way overeating? So it's like you're
Yeah.
kind of setting yourself up for these.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably even a less extreme version of that some people may be in. As I have a client who recently started with me and she really wants to find her maintenance calories and she tracks during the week at about 1900 calories, but doesn't super track on the weekends, is a little bit looser on her tracking. She's like,
Mm,
I've been maintaining at 1900. I'm like, you're
yeah,
not really
no,
maintaining at 1900. You're probably maintaining it more, but you're just not strictly tracking. And that's fine that she hasn't been. So we're now strictly tracking to really figure it out. And she's at like 2100 calories and we're seeing the scale go down week to week. And it's like,
yeah,
we can keep pushing you. And she's kind of had her mind blown. She's like, this is crazy that I can actually be at higher calories. And it's like, you were always probably at these higher calories when you're maintaining. You
right,
just weren't meticulously tracking. So I think to your example, that speaks perfectly is there's so many women out there, or just people in general, who are tracking diligently through the weeks,
yep.
not on the weekends.
Oh
And
my
they
god.
say, I maintain at 1500 calories when you really don't. You're probably maintaining at 2000, but your weekends are bumping up that overall average for the week.
Yeah, is there anything that just crushes my soul more than when a client is just doing so well and so diligent on the weekdays, and then they eat well, how could I know what they eat on the weekends because they don't log anything, and then
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday comes around and their weight is up 3, 4 pounds, and they're like, they message me like I need to reset or I need to, and it's like
Yeah.
you just need to get back to what you were doing and you just need to be
Exactly.
consistent for weeks on end. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
weight loss is
Exactly.
hard.
Yeah.
Weight loss
It
is
is.
hard. Like it's hard. You know,
Yeah.
gaining muscle for all intents and purposes, gaining muscle is relatively easy. You go
Yeah.
in, you lift weights. You know, it's great if you have a structured program. You'll make it go faster. But like losing weight, you have to be dialed in. So this
Yeah.
half-ass approach of like, oh, maybe I just track a little bit here and a little bit there. Like it's not going to be good enough in a lot of cases, and maybe it is in
Right.
70% of them or 80% of them, but if you're in that 10, 20, 30% where it's like not working for you, your weight isn't going down, track your weekends, guys.
Yeah. 100%. And I think a lot of times we avoid, I know we're kind of in a fat loss
we're,
thing.
we're,
This
we're really going deep here.
But this still applies to maintenance. Like even when you're at maintenance, I feel like that's a big struggle when it comes to some of my clients as we go from a deficit to maintenance and they get really loosey goosey with their tracking, which again is
Yes.
not inherently bad. But if we really want to find where your true maintenance is, I need you to treat the reverse and the maintenance just as important
Yep.
as your deficit so we can really see where it's at and what we're doing and where our maintenance calories really are. And so you do yourself a disservice with not tracking on the weekends. I know it's hard to confront it, but it's just like, all of your accountant's reels. It's just
Yep.
like you you avoiding looking at what your calories truly are on the weekend doesn't change the scenario. Like you either still overate, you still underate, or you ate at maintenance. Like you not confronting it doesn't change what happened. So why do you just keep not looking at it? And so
Yep.
if anything, it just provides valuable data to see, okay, am I binging on the weekends? Am I overeat on the weekends? Why am I overeat on the weekends? Okay, I eat 1200 calories during the week and then 3000 on the weekend. I have a during the week problem, not a weekend problem. And so the more data you can have, the more you can look back and understand, okay, where is my, I don't know if problem's the right word or issue, but you can see where the holes are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like
So,
that.
our next point that we want to talk about is like who should do it.
Yeah.
I'll
Do
let you
we?
dive into that.
Yeah, we did cover the what it is not. We've covered
Yeah.
what it is not. All right, who should do it? So, everybody, everybody
Yeah.
eventually is going to need to, whether you label as a reverse diet. You know, I personally don't. I just say you're returning to maintenance. But
Yeah.
again, this is semantics over like what we're calling it. But everybody should be living their lives at maintenance, and you should be using these like phases of cuts and bulks relatively sparingly. And I say
Right.
this, you know, I think if you're trying to maximize muscle growth, spend as much time as you possibly can in a very small surplus. And we're
Yeah.
going to talk about that. Should we plug it right now?
Yeah.
On
Next episode. Oh,
two
you're
episodes
right.
from
Two
now, because we have the
episodes.
Q&A episode next, and then the next one after that is going to be bulking 101. So really
Right.
excited for that because Bri and I are currently going through bulks. But
Yep.
anyways, we'll talk about that down the road. So who should do it? Everybody. Now, we're going to talk about next on like the two methods of how to do it, but very generally everybody should be trying to find out what their maintenance is, because if you have that rough idea, whether it's like 1700 or 1800 or 2000 or 2500 or 3000 calories, like if you have that rough idea of how many calories, how much energy it takes to maintain your body weight, even if it's a rough idea, oh my god, it's like freeing. The
Yeah.
technology that we have, I can scan a barcode on any food that I have in my house, and it'll tell me the energy that it's going to supply to my body. Because I don't think
Yeah.
we understand how powerful of a technology that is.
Yeah.
And if you're not
Agree.
like using that and you're not like kind of in awe that we can do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
like that wasn't a thing 100
No, no.
years ago or like
We have
50
we
years
have
ago.
all the tools in the book to be successful
Yes, you just need
nowadays.
to
100%.
dial in and do it. Like be
Yeah.
consistent. Stop making excuses. Stop being lazy. I've been
Yeah.
watching too many of those motivational videos.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to yeah, again, it's just using all the tools in that toolbox to do it.
Yeah.
So, do you want to dive into kind of the two methods, or is there anything else you want to add on for who should do it?
No,
I think
I
you
mean,
made a
I
great point
think
of everyone.
everybody's
Anyone who
going to
is
need to, if you're living in a deficit, like, so here's what's going to happen. If let's say somebody maintains at 2000, let's just make a made up scenario, like Becky, okay? Becky
yeah,
maintains at 2000 calories, and maybe she doesn't know that right now though. And so what would happen? I want you to answer this. What would happen if Becky ate at 1500 calories for the next 3 years?
what would happen?
Yeah, I
I
can
mean,
answer it if you
eventually,
want.
I mean, she would just lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight until that 1500 would become her maintenance,
Yep.
not because her metabolism is down regulating that much. Well,
Yep.
it is
It
because
is
she's
to a degree,
continuously
but
losing weight.
yes.
So that is a whole nother podcast
That's a
episode
whole
that we
nother
could go
podcast
into.
about like metabolic adaptation and all that, which
Yes,
I
but I
would
just
love to talk about.
briefly want to put in there the reason why that 1500 calories is eventually becoming her maintenance is because she's getting so small
Yep.
that eventually she's getting to a size that she will maintain at 1500. It's not because her body is shutting down certain methods, systems or whatever. Yeah, maybe you talk with your hands less a little bit more, but that's like maybe 10% of the adaptations. The biggest reason your maintenance goes down is because you now have a smaller body. And so let's say if she truly was at 1500 calories for 5 years, she'd eventually get to a weight that her body would be maintaining at 1500 calories.
Yeah, the more mass you have, whether it is body fat or muscle, it takes calories or energy
To
to
maintain
upkeep
that.
that. Yeah, to
Yeah.
maintain that exactly. So
Yeah.
if you're losing weight and you're just like doing it endlessly, I mean, you're probably not going to feel that good. I mean, guys,
Yeah.
like if you're a relatively healthy body weight, like I know a lot of us talk about like how the last 5 to 10 pounds aren't worth it. You're going to feel probably pretty bad. Like I
Yeah.
would rather have you spend that time at maintenance and just build muscle and like not feel absolutely horrible. Of course, there's always a place. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from pursuing fat loss or anything like that. Like you
Right.
do you. We're just, we
Yeah.
kind of want
No,
you to feel
totally.
good too.
But that's a good point to add to that is like if she was at 1500 calories for 3 years, not only is she going to lose enough weight to then maintain at 1500 calories, she's probably going to feel terrible.
Yep.
She's probably, potentially, losing muscle from that. I mean, it depends on obviously the scenario of stuff, but Becky's not going to feel great at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah. You'd
So,
also kind of worry about like how many carbs, how many fats is she having? And so like is
oh,
she like,
totally. And then
you know,
like, how tall is she too? Like
right.
1500 calories doing that for 3 years. Like, are you getting to a weight that is really making you pretty frail and is
Yeah.
actually an unhealthy weight too?
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, 100%.
All right. So I want you to cover the how to do it, the two methods.
Yeah. Okay. I'll dive
How
into
to
it. So
reverse diet.
yeah. So the two methods you'll typically see, and this is the one you probably see the most, is the slow and methodical. So after you're in a deficit, you just increase your calories, 100 calories every, 2, 3 weeks, maybe even weekly, depending on how you're doing it. Again, there's kind of multiple ways you'll see this done. So some coaches will say, okay, you're at 1600 calories. We're going to reverse you. So next week, you're going to go to 1700. The next week, you're going to go to 1750. And then you're going to do 18. And some coaches might do it weekly. Some coaches may wait 2 weeks. Some coaches, I wouldn't say I see them waiting 3 weeks, but it's typically a slow and methodical method until you start to see, okay, now we're at 2000 and we're not seeing really we're not seeing any negatives anymore. We're seeing you kind of go up a little bit and down a little bit, up a little bit and down a little bit, and you're maintaining that over the long term. That is
Yep.
not my favorite way to do it. And I know Alex would agree with that. My favorite way to do it, and how I do it with my clients, and I will put an asterisk here after this explanation, but is to jump most of the way. And then you can, I don't like to use the word crawl, but then you can start incrementally adding calories. So if my client maintains at 2,000 calories, I'm going to jump her up to 1,850 because I know she probably maintains around 2,000. And then from there, let her sit there for 2-3 weeks, watch the scale, see what happens. I mean, I already know that's probably not her maintenance. But again, she's lost weight. Maybe her maintenance now is 1,950 instead of 2,000. And then from there, as we're watching her data, we will increase calories either 50, 100. It depends how big of a jump that we take. And the reason I want to put a little asterisk there is I have used the slow and methodical method before. I'm not fully against it, but it's not my favorite because I know you'll agree with this, Alex. After your deficit, I want you to get feeling good as
Yep.
quickly as possible. And the
Get
quicker we can
out.
get your calories up, the quicker you can feel better, the quicker you can sleep better, the quicker you can exercise or lift weights better. So I want to get you there as fast as possible. However, I have clients who are very, very, very nervous about reversing and going back to maintenance. And most clients, I push through that. I'm like, no, we're going to push you up to here. Like let's break the mindset. But I have some clients are, I can just, through building a relationship with them, I know what they need is the slower methodical method. And so we'll increase, 100 calories each week. And they're like, oh my God. And then they start to see the scale like, oh my gosh, it's still dropping. Oh my gosh, it's still dropping. Like I haven't reached my maintenance. And so psychologically, that's just a better method for them. It's rare that I end up using that, but it depends the background that client comes from. And again, the relationship that we developed where I know how they work psychologically, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I'll let
Yeah.
you kind of add in
Important
what
to
you want
note,
to add.
it's a, and like she said, it's a psychological benefit, not a physiological one. To
Correct. I love that you
as
point that out.
like what we are seeing is that there's no
Different.
physiological benefit to doing this slow and methodical approach, and
Yeah.
really all you're doing is you're increasing the time that you're in a deficit. So like if
Yeah.
you want to be done losing weight, you get down to like whatever weight you want, your goal weight, maybe it's 150 pounds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like if you get to that, go to maintenance. Like, why
Yeah.
would we spend the next 8 weeks dragging this on? Your hunger is probably going to be elevated, like
Yeah.
from the deficit, from time in the deficit. Like your
Yeah.
mood's probably going to be down. Your lifts are probably going to be not
The
increasing as
best.
quickly as they could.
Right.
Um, so it's
Yeah.
just like I see absolutely no reason to do this outside of from I don't do this, but there are coaches out there who know better. That's what I'm going to say, and that's where I'm going to get a little bit tough and a little
Oh
bit
no, we're
mean.
gonna dive. I think what you're doing, we're gonna dive into this because it grinds my gears when I see this on social media. Are you talking about how coaches will post before and afters and like she's eating
Yes.
500 calories more or the reverse thing? Yeah, we're
Yes.
diving into that because
And
that,
and those coaches know damn well that they are
yeah,
freaking
it's,
lying about it.
yeah,
And like that really, I mean, I'm not going to say grinds my gears. It pisses me off
it
that
does piss, it pisses me off too.
you guys are lying about this when you know better. There's so much evidence out there that reverse dieting has no magical benefits. I say magical, like I should stop saying magical. Has no benefits on like increasing your maintenance calories, increasing. You know what they did? Your clients, they got more adherent because you
Yeah,
had them at 1,500 calories and they felt like, oh, I'm starving. I'm just not going to track. I don't want my coach to be mad at me. I don't want them to see that I ate like this Rice Krispie treat or
yeah,
5 of them at 9 p.m. And so it's like, okay, you give them this 2,000 calorie target over time, and they're finally adherent to that, and they're like, yeah, oh well, now they're losing weight at a higher calorie target. It's like unless they put on like 30 pounds
yeah,
and they just started like running so much and moving so much more,
yeah.
which is possible, like that they're pacing around throughout the day. Maybe they went from like 3,000 steps to like 10,000 steps and stuff like that because they have more energy, and that's great. And I'm so happy for you and for your client. But for you to market it that way, I think is super slimy, and I think
It
it's
is.
super scummy.
Well, and let me dive in. I'm going to try to explain to the audience what exactly we're talking about. Is you'll see these posts on Instagram where a client came to a coach and this person was eating 1,200 calories and couldn't lose weight. And now they've reverse dieted and they're at 2,000 calories or 1,800 calories and now they're losing weight. And so because they reverse dieted, they were eating too few calories, they couldn't lose weight on low calories, they need to eat more to lose weight. They reversed them and now she's lost 12 pounds in 12 weeks eating 1,800 calories. That's not what's happening.
That's not
Like
what's
Alex
happening.
said,
Starvation
is
mode is not real.
no, it's not. What's happening is these people that are coming to you are saying they're eating 1,200 calories.
Yep.
They're not really. They are maybe 3, 5 days a week during the week eating 1,200, trying to starve themselves, and then they binge on the weekend. So it feels like they're spinning their wheels at 1,200 calories, but they're not, and they're not getting all this friction. And so their average is actually higher than 1,800 calories. Then they come to a coach. A coach says, hey, let's start to slowly give you more food. Obviously, with more food, you're going to feel better. You're going to enjoy your time better. It's going to be easier to stick to a deficit because you have more food. So they're just more adherent.
Yep.
And so I hate when I see those pictures, it just irks me because it really makes people believe that, like you just said, there's this thing called a starvation mode where I'm not eating enough and that's why I can't lose weight.
It makes people feel like their bodies are broken, and like your body is not
Correct.
broken. Your body is so adaptable. So like
Yes.
I hate this message that we're pushing of like your body's broken and I can fix you for the
Yeah.
low price of $500 a month. You know, like
Right.
come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, let's do better. We should be empowering every single person we talk to, every single person we speak to, and like work with, especially. Like, we should be
Yeah.
empowering them and telling them, like, your body's not broken. You are able to get out of this. Like, be a supportive person, not like I have the secret key to your health. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And I will play
ridiculous.
like the devil's advocate a little bit in this. And I do think there's some coaches that just aren't educated enough to
They just don't
really
know.
know.
And so for them,
Yeah.
this is Bri and I's ask
PSA.
for you. Yeah, this is your
Yeah.
PSA. It's never too late. I'm going to empower you now. I'm going to give you the positive message. It's never too late to change your opinions on things. If you
Yeah.
need to, Eric Trexler does a ton of research on reverse dieting. He is
Yeah.
probably the number one guy, in my opinion. He's probably the number one guy in the entire world to look to for reverse dieting research. He was doing this stuff before anybody had even heard about it.
Probably before he
He
was in called reverse dieting, I'm
I'm
sure.
pretty sure he was one of the people who coined the phrase,
Coined it.
if not
Yeah.
he did it.
Yeah.
Obviously, though, that's kind of up for debate, like who came
Yeah.
up with phrases and stuff like that. But he has so many good articles out there that, like, if you're looking for extended education, especially as a coach, go look up Eric Trexler reverse dieting.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I know. I'm glad we dived into that because that really, I mean, just for lack of a better word, just pisses me off at the
Yeah,
end of the day. But then I also, I can see sometimes I'm like, I just think they don't know because there's just times where I recently just posted a reel about how like starvation mode isn't a thing. And there's people commenting being like, no, like if you don't feed your body enough, it can't function enough. So it can't function well, then it can't burn fat. And it's just
right.
like, no, that's,
It sounds like a logical argument.
it
I mean,
does.
like I'll say that it sounds so like don't feel like stupid or dumb for like not
No.
knowing. Like, how could you? Like, all of this stuff is always going to be new to all of us. You know,
Yeah.
if we aren't exposed to kind of like the science of things and stuff like that, like we won't know, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely okay. But like now, if you do know, and if you have
Yeah.
done your research, if you've
Yeah.
done that, change your opinion.
Yeah. And I think this is also a little shout out to if you are trying to, be more aggressive in your deficit and you're having a hard time sticking to it, you're having a hard time seeing that weight loss, bump up your calories. Like
See
be
how
at
it
a
goes.
more
Yeah.
consistent intake and it actually will end up being faster because here's the thing, you're doing this extreme and we keep going to fat loss, but it's all tying in
It
together.
is. It is. It all ties though. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing this 1,200 calories that you can't stick to. And so you're not seeing the weight loss that you want to. It's actually taking you longer versus if you did more calories and went for like a pound a week versus trying to do the MyFitnessPal thing, doing 2 pounds a week.
Yeah. Right.
You're actually making the process take longer than just accepting a more sustainable approach and just accepting a 1 pound or even, half a pound, 0.75 of a pound per week.
Yeah, I also want to
More
just
sustainable.
quickly plug that, like, if you are in a very severe deficit, the odds that you're going to grow muscle damn near zero. If
Yeah.
you are in a slower deficit, there was a big meta-analysis on this that Mass covered, Monthly Application Strength Sport. They covered this, and they found that across like all these studies, I don't remember how many studies were in it, but across all these studies, that if you're in a 500 calorie deficit, the amount of lean gains or like lean mass gains that you'll get are zero. Now, this is on average. Always keep in mind
Yeah.
that all studies, especially
Right.
meta-analyses, are on average. So it could be less, it could be more. It's dependent on the person. You could be in
Yeah.
1,000 calorie deficit and potentially still gain muscle.
Right.
If you're a beginner, if you're detrained, if you're
Higher
overweight. So
body
like,
fat percentage.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like, don't think like, oh, 500 is the number that I cannot go beyond. Like, that's not what we're saying. It's just like, understand that the more strict of a deficit you're in, it's less likely that you'll gain muscle. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, maybe the slow approach might be a good call.
Yeah.
Also, there's a maximum amount of fuel that your body can use for from body fat per day. So like there is a max number. If you have more body fat, you'll be able to use more of that. If you have less
Right.
body fat, you'll be able to use less. So like where's that energy going to be coming from? If not your body fat, the food that you eat, if you're not eating a whole lot of food, oh, it's coming from muscle, baby.
Yeah. Well, and we also have to remember too, like if you're at a really low body fat percentage, your body's gonna, it has to weigh like what's more valuable right now. Like, do we need to make sure that we are keep, like if we're at such a low body fat percentage, especially as a woman, your body might be like, we can't afford to use fat as our burning source. We're gonna have to go towards muscle. Like we're gonna have to decrease our strength and decrease what we can lift because that's what's more valuable at the moment. And so that's the whole intent when you are in a fat loss phase of like training and eating a good amount of protein. You're saying, hey, body, we need this. Like we got plenty of fat, like take from that, but we need this. But there's a point where you get so lean where your body's like, hormonally, we can't afford to keep like going for the body fat. We're going to go for both, or we're going to go for more so the muscle. And so then you make that trade off too.
Yep. So we talked about the two methods of like the slow and methodical and then the jump right away. So,
Yes.
and I know you already covered this for me, but I just want to be clear that like, yeah, like Bri, I'm also the jump, like jump
Yes.
immediately back to maintenance. You go for like 90% of maintenance. I go 100%. I think 90% is actually a really smart idea because yeah, their maintenance is probably going to be a bit lower because of the weight that they've
Weight
lost.
loss. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's a smart idea. Also just prepare yourself that like, when you're looking at data for like how to look at maintenance, ignore the first week. Anytime you change
Yeah.
phases, I would really highly recommend ignoring the first week. It can feel really good when you move from maintenance or bulk to weight loss and you're like, oh my God, I'm down 4 pounds this week. It's setting you up for false expectations
Yeah.
because it's just less stomach content, less glycogen, less
Yep.
water. And so, like, understand that, okay, that weight drop is not real for the most part. It's just not real. It's not body fat.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of things, when you go from deficit to maintenance, your weight will probably jump up like 2 to 5 pounds. That's
Right.
just stomach content. If you're eating more, where's it going to go? In your body. So,
Yeah.
like, you need to be prepared for that and don't have like a mental flip of like, oh my God, I will
Right.
overshot my maintenance. Now I'm fat. Now I have
Yeah.
to go cut again. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that serious.
Yeah. So this is where I think we want to transition into kind of like, okay, so once you decide whether you're going methodical and slow or you're going to jump up, now you need to look at your data to assess where your maintenance is. And so you made the great point of like, okay, that first week, just understand like the stomach content is going to increase, your glycogen stores are going to increase. All of, to be honest, all of the gain that week is going to be from physically more things being in your body, whether that's water or food. And
Yeah.
so this is where I always challenge clients. It's like, are your clothes fitting the same? Do you feel the same? Like you're feeling better and you have more energy. Like let's focus on everything else but the scale. And then from there, it's really assessing your data honestly every 2-3 weeks. And this is the hard part about reversing or going back to maintenance is when it comes to a deficit, like we can pretty much make the call aside from like a period week where you're naturally going to be fluctuating upwards and maybe you have a really terrible work week. We can make calls, a week and a half, 2 weeks at a time if we need to
Yeah.
change anything. With clients, I always like to wait 2 weeks. But
Same.
for like myself, I know how,
You
compliant
know
I
the
am.
numbers that you're looking
I
for.
know the numbers I'm looking at. If I'm not seeing a weight draw after like, maybe like a week and a half, I'm like, I could probably go ahead and make some adjustments. But anyways, for all of that to say is 2 weeks. But for a reverse, like you're really going to be pushing probably on the upper end of 3 weeks being at the same calories,
Yeah.
especially if you jump, like what you were saying, if you jump straight back to maintenance, like where you really
Your
think you're
weight's
going to
going to jump.
be,
Yeah. Your
you
weight's
can
going to
wait.
jump. It's going to muddy the data a bit.
Yeah. And I've had some clients where again, go either method isn't better physiologically, it's really psychologically. And so there's some clients I'm like, okay, maybe I'll take the 80% jump for them. And so we take the 80% jump and literally the next week I'm like, we're upping your calories because I know for a fact that we are not close to their
Yeah.
maintenance. And so
Yeah.
I'm okay with pushing that a little bit more, but I would say the closer you are to taking that bigger jump, the longer you could probably wait out that first jump that you make, see what the fluctuations are and then go from there.
Yeah, and I think it can be really easy. We touched on this earlier, but I think it could be really easy to be like, "Oh, we're at maintenance. Like, I don't have to be so strict anymore." And I love
Yeah.
that for you. I love that. Be strict. Stay strict. Just pretend that your fat loss phase is going on another 3 weeks. Pretend like you have to, dial it in just to understand what your maintenance target is. If you want to loosen up and focus on habits after the fact,
Yeah.
totally fine. But what a lot of people will do is they will way overshoot it. Like
Yeah.
what I've started doing is for when some of the people that I work with, when they move into a bulk, like especially if it's from a fat loss phase, I'll say, you get 1 week. You get 1 week to do whatever you want. Go crazy.
Yeah.
I don't care. Your weight's gonna go up like 7 pounds. We're not
Yeah.
worried about it. I don't care. Do
Get it
your
out of your
thing.
system
Get it out
now,
of your
and then we're
system
going
now.
back into being strict.
And then we're gonna be dialed in again. Like yes,
totally.
because bulks can be like 4,000, 5,000 calories. Like I have clients seriously that are like eating 5,000 calories in a day, and they're like, yeah, I mean, it was just like, I'm bulking, so might as well. And I'm like, I understand you, but like, please.
You have to almost kind of, when you're going to maintenance, and then eventually, and we could probably do a whole podcast episode on eventually phasing out of tracking. But for me, it's like when I go to maintenance, I kind of need to understand where my habits are at. And then once I develop kind of a routine and habits, then I feel more comfortable transitioning out.
Absolutely.
And same thing for a bulk. Like for a long time, I did track in a bulk because I'm like, okay, I need to be pushing my calories up. And once I got the swing of like, okay, I have this for breakfast, I have this for a snack, I have this for lunch, I have some chocolate milk here, a cookie here.
Yep.
I was consistently hitting my calories and hitting my protein because I kind of know what that looks like in a day. And I took a break from tracking, but then I noticed I wasn't gaining the weight and the percentages that I wanted and the time frame I wanted. So I was like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board and see, where am I missing something? Could I have avoided that altogether and just continue to track? Sure. But I'm really loving the ability to not super track and trust myself of, I know how to push myself up to the calories where I want. I know where to hit the protein. It's easier to hit protein because I have so much food to play around with, and I can take that break. But it's the same thing applying to maintenance. It's like, let's track at maintenance to see where your habits lie. Do we want to kind of be on the lower end during the week so you can be a higher end on the weekends because you're really social, and see where those habits lie, and then you kind of build what your days look like around those habits.
Yep, agreed. I'm somebody who struggles to put on weight. Like I will just undereat. Like I'll go a full day without eating pretty much anything, and I'm fine.
Everyone listening to this podcast probably hates you right now.
I know. I'm completely aware. And so like bulking is harder for me. So like I have to track every single day. I'm eating like 3,400 calories a day right now.
You're at
and
that
it's like,
point.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm getting to that point too, because we talked about this. I don't know if it's just you and me or in a previous podcast, but we talk about how there's a point where when you're in a deficit that you get to, that you're pushing past what your body's comfortable, right?
Yes, it starts getting very difficult. Yes.
And it goes the other direction for bulking, right? There's a certain frame where it's like your body's like, say it one more time.
Homeostasis. Your body likes staying the same.
This is where your satiety levels are, where your body's comfortable at being weight wise, where maybe even you're comfortable being weight wise. And I feel like I'm getting to the point where it's like, I'm really comfortable at 150, 151. I'm having a hard time pushing past 151 because I'm getting to a point where I'm having to eat past my satiety levels. And that's been harder. And so
I've been nauseated trying to eat so much.
Yeah, especially for you and like for Sage, who are having to like eat, I mean, an insane amount of calories. And I'm talking like 2,700 for me, which is easier for you. And with you and Sage are like pushing, what are you at? Like are you at 3,500? What are you
about
at?
35, about 34, 35. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sage
and
is
I'm
what,
just
37, 38?
I'm getting the end of my day at like 26, 27. I'm like, I can't imagine trying to find a way to eat another 1,000 calories right
cereal.
now.
I mean, last night I had like,
cereal
I
fills
think I
me
had
up.
900. Really?
Yes.
I could muck a biggest bowl of cereal like last night at like 11:30 p.m. I'm watching the UFC fights, and I mucked a bowl of like 900 calories worth of cereal. I mean, like,
maybe it's because I go back. You have a big bowl that you can fill up. I keep going back for servings. And so I think as I go back for servings, or honestly, when I eat cereal, I feel like I swallow a lot of air or something. Cause I'm just like, I love cereal. I don't know. I probably need to slow down a little bit too, but yeah. Anyways,
we'll have to talk about that on the habits one, on like plate sizing and like bowl sizing and things like that.
Well, we're getting into bulking too, which again, all of this pertains, but it's like, I think where we're at, just kind of like watching your data over. Oh, this is what I want to point out. When you're watching your data over a 2 to 3 week time, I think a lot of people think it's going to say 0.0 weight gain, 0.0 weight gain, 0.0 weight gain, or loss, whatever. It is going to go up zero point 0.4 of a pound and then down zero point 0.4 of a pound and then up zero point 0.3 and then down zero point 0.2 and then up zero point 0.7 and then down. But you
I'm
have to look
saying
at it
like
over.
up like 2.4, down
Well,
1.5.
yes,
Like,
yeah, that's true. When you first are starting out in the reverse, it's going to go up 4 and then you're going to
yep,
drop 3 and then it'll
yep,
probably bigger ones. But there's going to get to a point where you actually do hit your maintenance and you're coasting. And coasting isn't you gain or lose zero point 0 each week. It's going to be you're
yeah,
up a little bit and down and up a little bit and down. And so if you look at the chart over time or net it over time, your net 0.01 or 0.02 or zero point 0.2, and that's where you know you found your maintenance. And so I think a lot of people think, oh, when I reach my maintenance, I'm not going to gain or lose anything. It's like, no, we have to understand you may physically have not more calories. You may physically have more food in your body this week because you ate more broccoli this week. The next week you're on vacation and you ate the same amount of calories, but it was physically less food, but more calorie dense. And so you're going to go up and down because of those things. So when you're looking at your data over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, you need to be seeing what kind of net you're gaining or losing is what you need to be looking at.
yep, agreed.
So, um, okay, I want you to talk about experimenting with the upper end
Of your
range of
maintenance.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So, you probably heard, for the listeners, you probably heard, like, your maintenance is a range, and but what does that mean? So that means that, like, let's say somebody, again, we'll use Becky as an example. She was such a good example earlier in this
I
episode, so we're
like
gonna
Becky
use,
with the good
yeah,
hair.
yeah, exactly, Becky with the good hair. We're gonna use her once again.
Mhm.
So, let's say Becky maintains at 2,000 calories, and she's like, I wonder if I could maintain at 2,100 or 2,200. So she tries it. And yes, again, weight is going to increase in the short term. Like, it will go from, like, let's say she's 150 pounds, she might go up to 151 or 152 pounds, but that's because of more stomach content.
Right.
Anyways, so she does that, and she's like, wow, I feel more energy because, Becky, you are providing your body more energy. So maybe this is the point where, like, Becky doesn't feel as hungry. Becky doesn't feel as stressed. Becky doesn't feel as low energy, due to eating more. So she starts moving more. Maybe she
Yeah.
goes like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll hit my workout today. I was kind of feeling low energy, but today I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe she
Yeah.
goes and hits her workout. Maybe she paces around more. The difference of my calorie range of, like, what I maintain at, from the end of my last cut to beginning of my bulk, this was a 2 week difference. So it's not like I was 20 pounds heavier, right? I was
Yeah.
like, in terms of body fat, I would probably gain like 4 pounds because I was in a very specific case where I was very, very lean. I needed to put on body fat to become healthy again. I was insanely
Yeah.
lean. But anyways, my maintenance went up by like 700 calories over the
Yeah.
course of like 2 weeks. Like, I went from maintaining at like 2,200 to 2,900 basically within, and it's because I was forcing myself to walk 12,
Yeah, I
13,000
think you need
steps
to
every
put
single
in
day.
here why that range was probably so big for you because of what you experienced and where you were at.
Yeah, well,
Because I will say this, you're and you can disagree with me and correct me.
yep,
Um, you were at such a low body fat percentage that like going on a walk around the neighborhood, like you
yeah.
were huffing and puffing and probably felt like nauseous to a point.
Worse, way worse. Huffing and
Yeah.
puffing would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like, very dizzy, like seeing
Yeah. So you get
stars.
dizzy from walking around the neighborhood. And
Yeah,
so when you finally gave your body food back, your body was like, oh, we can move more now because we're
yeah,
finally getting the energy supply. And so I think with how lean you were, your body's like, it was probably avoiding any movement if it could. And you were
exactly.
pushing yourself to
Yes.
have the
And I was
movement.
pushing myself to hit like these 13,000 steps, right? And so, like, I was doing a lot. It's not like I was just being an absolute slug, but
Right.
anytime I wasn't doing that forceful movement where it's like I hop on the treadmill, I move, it's like my body would be subconsciously telling
Yeah.
me, like, sit down,
Yeah.
sit still. And
Yeah.
because it's just trying to conserve any energy. So, like, that this is a very extreme example, my example is, but,
Yeah.
like, for Becky, which isn't so extreme, maybe she can maintain at 2,200, 2,300 rather than just 2,000,
Yeah.
simply because she's moving more and
Yeah.
she's feels better and she has more energy. So I think that's something that, you could play around with. If you feel like, oh man, I'm like maintaining at 1,700, but I like don't feel that good, maybe
Yeah.
try 1,800. Maybe
Yeah.
just try it and see how it goes. um yeah,
And
i think
and
i think
this
that's what I want to say there.
Yeah, and the thing I want to point out is like, let's play worst case scenario. And I would do this with
Mm,
myself. It's like worst case scenario. Let's say Becky goes up to 2,300 calories, and that puts her in a 300 calorie surplus. Like, I mean, we probably have to do the math here, but like, if she was to be in a 23 at 2300 calories and that put her in a, God forbid, a 300 calorie surplus, it would take her X amount of time to even put on a pound. But like putting on a single pound of body fat for her to find out if that was or isn't her, that she could be at those calories, is worth it. I think
Yeah.
we see as gaining a pound, especially women, as like the end of the world. And it's like,
Hmm.
you know how quick you can lose that pound? If it really bothered you
Literally.
that much,
You could do it
take a
in
week, go into a
1 week.
deficit. I
One
mean,
week you could do that.
again, we talk about it before, like the first week was probably going to be mostly stomach content and stuff like that. But like go into deficit for 2 weeks, lose that pound, you learned you couldn't be at 2,300 calories, you move on with your life. So
Right.
it's like there's such little risk with experimenting how high your calories truly can be. And I mean, an extra 300 calories, I think some people out there maybe listening be like, it's not really that much. Cut 300 calories from
Oh,
your day to day, if you're in a deficit, cut 300
oh,
calories from
cut
your
300.
day.
It'll be it'll be the
It's
worst
going
week
to
of your
suck. You're
life.
going to
It'll
realize
be
how much
horrible.
300 calories comes from like maybe,
100 calories makes a big difference.
yeah, I have a client
300
where
is miserable.
I have a client who she was throwing peanut butter in her shakes, which is fine. She threw it in there for the flavor. And I was like, we could
PB
switch over
powder.
to like PB too,
Yep.
where it's less calories, or you could get a peanut butter flavored protein powder to
Yep.
take out that 160 calories that you throw in. She's like, no, it's worth it for me. She realized how much 160 calories is worth to her in a deficit. And she's now switched over
Yeah.
to a peanut butter protein powder. But you
Smart.
just realize how valuable some of those calories can be, especially in a deficit. So if 300 does sound like a lot, it really is. And if you don't think it is, cut 300 calories from your day and see how much you're going to have to cut out of your day just to have those extra 300.
Yeah,
So
go eat 300 calories worth of cauliflower rice for your next dinner, and
yeah,
then tell me that 300 calories isn't like insane.
exactly.
Like 300 flour or calories worth of cauliflower rice and broccoli,
Yeah.
it'll change your life.
Yeah.
Like it is so filling. It
So
is
filling.
so filling.
And I think the last thing I want to point out with this, like your range of maintenance is like what Alex was saying. And I think just to dive in a little bit more is there are people who get more food. Their body's like, oh my gosh, more food, we can move more, and they will move more. And then
Yeah.
their maintenance will move up because they are moving more.
Yep.
For me, I'm not that
That
person.
doesn't
I mean,
work for everybody. Yeah.
yeah, it's not everyone's that way. Sage is that way. Sage is a very like, what's the term? When you adapt, like when you go into deficit, you move less. When you go into whatever, you move more. What's the term?
So I used to
There's a
call it
term for
metabolically flexible, but this
I don't know if
could be metabolically flexible could be confused with like your mitochondria's capability of switching between carbs and fats
yeah.
as a fuel source. So I need to find
Yeah.
I need to find a new
But there's just
phrase.
people where when they eat less, naturally they
Yep.
move less. They stop talking with their hands, tapping their feet, getting up 16 times a day to go pee. Maybe their body's like, hey, we're getting up 4 times to go pee. We're figuring this out. And there's some people when then they eat more, their body's like, oh my gosh, we can do so many more activities. Like this is
Yeah.
amazing. Me, it really doesn't. I eat more food. I pretty much sit just as much. And so my range is very small compared to that. And that's not me discouraging everyone. I just want to make sure that you don't hear Alex's 700 calories or
I think
Becky's
that's
300
normal.
calories. And
Yeah.
your flexibility, maybe you're at 2000 and you can push to 21, but you can't go much more past that. Don't be upset. Like it just is what it is. If
Yep.
you really want to have a higher maintenance, let's say you only can go up to 2100, just go for more walks during the day. Make the conscious decision that you're going to move more, and then
Yeah.
you could up your maintenance calories.
Yeah. Instead of sitting for 8 hours straight, every like 30 minutes, just get up and do a couple laps around your apartment, your house, around your
Yeah.
workplace. Like do that. The steps will increase a lot and your calorie expenditure will increase a lot. So you'll be able to eat more.
Yeah, and I've done this too. I was like, you know what? Honestly, at maintenance, I really want to eat more. And so when I was at maintenance, I every day without fail would just go for an hour walk. One, it's good
Yeah.
for my mental health. Two, I take the dog, for a walk. I was like, I just want to go for a walk every day for an hour, and that would set me anywhere from 10,000 to 12,000 steps. I was able to eat more because I was moving more. But that some people don't have that luxury of going for an hour walk every single day, and so your maintenance calories are just where they are. And instead of being upset about it, it doesn't change the fact you being upset about it. You're still at those calories that you have to be at. Now you're just in a negative headspace about it.
Yep.
So quit that. Your life is what it is. Like your situation is what it is. You either can change that a little bit through more movement or just accept what it is and enjoy your life at maintenance.
Yeah. Yep.
So
There are going to be people like if you have that skinny friend that is like, oh, they can just eat whatever they want and not gain weight. And it feels like that. I mean, one, I would love for two people to actually track, the people saying that, like the person
yeah,
saying that about the skinny person. I'd love for both of them to track their calories for a week and then
yeah,
compare. But let's say they did have equal calories, which is very possible that somebody's like 200 pounds and the other person's like a buck 30 or something
Yeah.
like that, and they're
Yeah.
eating the same amount of calories. It's because that person who's a buck 30 is just Energizer Bunny. And
Yeah.
that's me when I have more food. It's like I don't want to be eating
Yeah.
3,400, 3,500 calories to bulk right now. I feel
Yeah.
sick every day. If I
Yeah.
could gain right now at like 2,700, oh my God, I'd be so much happier. But the reality is
Yeah.
like I just don't stop. Like every
Yeah.
time I'm posting on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is, like when I'm making content, when I'm responding to messages, I'm just doing laps around my house and like I can't sit still for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whenever so when I'm like deep into a fat loss phase, I
No.
am stuck to my couch. Like
Yeah.
I'll force myself to move every once in a while, but and I'll hit my step minimum, but like outside of that, oh, it's all bets are off. So if you
Yeah.
have that like frustration with like, oh, it seems like they can eat whatever they want, it is what it is. I
Well,
mean,
and not
that's
to
tough.
I have a great example of that. I have like an acquaintance in my life who she's always been the person people always say she can eat whatever she wants and she looks amazing and she's shredded and all this kind of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna actually watch what she eats in a day. And we had a Saturday where we were just like hang out with friends, and I was with her from like breakfast until like late at night. So got to where we were hanging out. We were doing like a brunch. She didn't eat anything for brunch and she didn't drink. Everyone else was
Mm,
drinking. We were having little snacks, popping things out. She didn't drink. She didn't um have or what I say, didn't drink and didn't eat anything.
yep.
And then later that day, we all went to a hockey game together. And when we were there, she didn't drink. She didn't eat anything at the hockey game.
Other people
I was like,
got
okay,
like
interesting.
popcorn
Like
and snacks or like a pretzel or something like that.
nothing. And then there was like
Yeah.
it was transitioning from the hockey game to like going back to some person's place to like go hang out and play like drinking games or whatever. And during that time, she got like a salad. I was like, okay, her first time eating all day is like at 3 p.m. She hasn't been drinking, but she got this like huge, ginormous salad, right? So visually, it looks like it's a lot of food, and it is, but it's probably a little on the lower calorie side, maybe, who knows, because of the fat content or cheese and all that. And then later that night, we went to a restaurant and she got a couple drinks. She got an appetizer. But her appetizer was like oysters and a shrimp cocktail and like all of these things, which
Lean.
are very low calorie. And then she got
Yeah.
whatever she wanted for dinner. And people just made the comment, like, you just get to eat whatever you want. I'm like, if you really looked at her, she didn't eat all day until 3 p.m. And then all of her calories came from the evening. And so I think
Yeah.
if people, not that I'm telling you to go analyze your friend that says that or you think that, but like, maybe next time you think that about a friend, watch their eating habits over the course of the day, and either they snack all day and it looks like they're eating all day, but they're just eating small little snacks, or maybe they most of their calories come from the end of the day. It just doesn't look like what you really think it is,
Yeah.
or to your point, they move a ton. I have a
Yeah.
friend who is, not now, we're not the same weight now, but when I'm not in a bulk, we're around the same weight. She's an inch shorter than me, but she cannot stop moving at all. Like when she gets done with work, she's like, what more work can I do? Like what project can I work on? And she's always moving, always grooving. And I'm just not that way. I could sit and watch Netflix for 8 hours, where if she was to watch Netflix for 8 hours, she would just be like itching in her skin to sit for that long. So there's just so many different variabilities with that.
Yep, agreed. And
So
I really want to force it home that like your maintenance calories, they just are what they are. Suck it up,
yeah.
deal with it. You're not that person. You're in your own skin.
Yeah.
I'm really turning into a villain. Like I'm turning into my villain arc of like work harder. Stop making excuses. Like I've always been this person, but
Yeah.
like
You feel
people
more.
are loving like when I'm a pretty empathetic person, but people are loving when I'm like saying like these things, and so it's like, okay guys, well I'm gonna get worse about it then. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like more
Well, maybe not worse, but you're just going to get more forward with it.
strict, more
Yeah.
forward with it. Yeah, more
Yeah.
forward with it. I'm just tired of people being like, why me, why I can't do this, it's too hard, like
Yeah.
okay.
There's a solution to everything. I think a lot of times in society, just in general with everything, it's just like instead of looking for a solution to your problem, it's like I just can't do it. And it's like instead of saying I can't do it, say how can I do it?
Yeah, what's the
Where
first
can I
step?
find? Have the
Right.
can do attitude with things,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's transitioned to the last point that we have, and it's one that I had typed out here. When it comes to maintaining, there's like Alex had said it at some point, you're going to, let's say you end your cut at 162 and then you automatically go back, you do your reverse, go back to maintenance. You're going to automatically increase on the scale due to having more food in your body. And I think people try so hard to maintain the exact weight that they ended their deficit in. One, you're not
Not gonna
going to.
happen. Not going to
Simply
happen.
not going to happen because you have
Yep.
more food in your stomach.
Yep.
Also, I think this is the part that we don't talk about. It's like, yes, when you go back to maintenance, you will probably maintain like I don't know, I typically tell people like a 2 to 5 pound range from where you ended. Like if you end at
Yep.
162, you'll probably increase your calories, more food content, more water content, anywhere between 164 and 167.
Sure.
Which, yeah, right.
I
Okay.
100% agree. Yeah,
With that, yeah.
you're going to gain like 2 to 5 pounds. That's a completely normal range.
Yeah,
Yes.
normal range for you and that could be no fat gain, simply just from stomach
Yes.
content and
Right.
water content.
Right.
The other thing I think that isn't talked about enough is that maybe your best life though is 3 pounds heavier at 170. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like for me, the last time I did a cut, I got down to 133. I reversed myself back to maintenance. I think I was like at 137 ish. And I just kind of stopped tracking and just kind of like every once in a while checked in with my protein and stuff. And I naturally ended up at 140, 141. I maintained 140 for a long time because my best life and my eating habits had me weighing a little bit more because I naturally enjoyed more, socialized more, whatever it may be. And so it's like people try to hold on to that 137 or 162 or whatever it is so bad that it's like maybe your life is a little bit better, 3 pounds heavier. So you can enjoy 200 more calories a day because that's where you feel satiated. That's how much you socialize or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Does that make sense how I
Agreed.
explain that?
100% agreed. Yeah.
So I think just don't hold on to that number. I think it's okay to have it as like I don't know, carrot in front of in front of you, what I
In
don't
front
know,
of
a
the
goal.
bunny. Yeah, carrot in front of the
Yeah,
bunny.
carrot in front of the
Kind of
bunny,
thing.
whatever, but just like don't hold on to that so tightly.
Yeah.
Like your best life is going to be the one that gives you the happiest life.
All right. You want to do a recap before we wrap it up? So,
I'll
what
let you
is a
do the
reverse?
recap. I feel like I've been
Cool.
talking for like 15 minutes straight. So I'll let you do the recap.
No, I don't.
Unless you want me to.
I can do it. Yeah, yeah. So okay. So what is a reverse diet? So it's just it's a way to increase your calories from deficit to maintenance. You can either
Yep.
do it incrementally or you can jump. Everybody is going to be living their life at maintenance. So at some point, when you come out of a fat loss phase, you're going to have to increase your calories.
Yep.
You won't know exactly the number that it's at. So it's going to be a little bit of a guess and check.
Yep.
You could use like a TDEE calculator to see like roughly what it is. Obviously, these are just an estimate, but like it might
Yeah.
give you a rough idea of what it is. You could jump. Our pretty firm recommendation here is don't do the slow methodical approach because it increases the length of time that you're in a deficit. So
Yeah.
if you want to stay in a fat loss phase longer, just stay at the calories you're at or make adjustments there, but don't feel
Yeah.
like you have to do like this 50 to 100 calorie week to week kind of jump. Just jump 90% or 100% of the way to your maintenance. Start living life there.
Yeah.
The first week, the data is going to be a little bit muddy because of the increase in stomach content. So weight, you might jump like 3 to 5 pounds. That's normal. It's not body fat. You really get this through your head. It's not body fat.
Yep.
So then start looking at your data over time. My recommendation would be weekly averages. Get 3, 5, 7 days of weight data. Do it the same time every morning with after the bathroom, before you eat or drink anything, with the same clothing or none on,
I'm
under
gonna
the
say
same
this real quick.
conditions.
You say
Yep.
after the bathroom.
Yep.
If you don't normally poop in the
Oh, don't
morning
feel like
right
you
when
have to
you wake up,
force it. Yeah, don't give
yeah,
yourself
don't force it or
hemorrhoids.
don't be
Yeah,
like, I have to wait till 10 a.m., but I'm already at work. Just
yeah.
whatever
Whatever's
bodily
normal
fluid.
for you.
Yeah, whatever's normal, just do that in the morning and
Yep.
then weigh. Just make it consistent. If that's
Yep.
pee and no poop, if that's poop and pee, just make it consistent,
Make
whatever
it
it is. Because
consistent.
people ask me that often. So I just want to
I've actually
clarify
never
that.
been asked that. So good clarification.
Yeah.
Then look at maintenance is going to be a little bit slower because there's not as much movement as there is in a fat loss phase. So like look at 2 to 3 weeks of data rather than like
Yeah.
1 to 2.
Yeah.
Look at averages. Yes, your weight is going to fluctuate. It's going to go up 1 pound, then down 1 pound, then up 2 pounds, then down 2 pounds. This is pretty normal. But as long as you're maintaining across week to week, weekly averages, across like 3 weeks, you're in a good spot.
Well, and
Anything I
another
missed there?
asterisk. I'm just going to add things in as I'm thinking. If you're a female and you have your period, you need to
Yep.
count that in for that too. So you may even push it to 4 weeks because you're going to be going up due to the bloating and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And if you do want to experiment with your upper end of maintenance, that would be the time after you've already jumped to maintenance. If you want to try increasing by like 50 to 100 calories, see what happens, do it like 1 week at a time. This would be, that could be a good way to do it. But I think
yeah.
don't extend my bottom line would be, once you're done with your fat loss phase, don't extend the time that you're in it. Get
Yeah.
back to maintenance as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the methodical method, again, I think we've said how it can be helpful for
Hmm.
people psychologically or just
Psychologically,
trying to push through it. However, where was I going with this?
physiologically, there's not going to be a benefit.
No, but there was another thing I was going to say. I don't know. I was
That's
going
fine.
somewhere with that. I
That's
lost
okay.
track.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps up everything that we want to talk about reverse dieting. Anything you want to
Yeah,
add?
I think that's perfect. If you have
Awesome.
any other questions on reverse dieting or any confusion, shoot Alex or I a DM.
Yep.
We'd be happy to answer and talk
Yep.
about it more. So
Yeah.
cool.
All
Well,
right.
everyone have a great week
Yeah.
and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys.